Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. My name's Abby Payne, your co host, and we're excited to have conversations around what it means to be a modern woman, reconnecting with our sacred work as feminine beings, rebalancing the masculine feminine energies.
I love it. I'm Chelsea Henderson, your other co-host, and thank you so much for joining us for our messy, informal conversations where we just explore all that is so important to us and what we think is important for the world. Thank you and enjoy.
Well,
hello.
hey y'all.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Sue. Here we are with our dear friend Sue. I'm so excited to be in the same space as the two of you, even if it is virtual.
Me too.
I can't hug you.
I am so
but
excited.
This is fun.
Like, folks.
I know. Virtual hugs. Thanks for coming on, Sue. Thanks for coming to chat with us.
My goodness. My absolute pleasure. I love talking to you both, and I am just really excited to be here and talk to you more and talk about life and everything that we're going to kind of cover today.
Me too.
So excited to have you and to share our honest conversation with other women who might be feeling disconnected, wanting to connect to more women, and just be part of the feminine awakening conversation. So the more the merrier, the more the merrier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, to go ahead and get started, I think it would be great if you would introduce yourself to our audience, and we can talk about how we met and all of that. But yeah, just feel free to introduce who you are, where you're coming from, anything that feels pertinent that you want our audience to know.
Sure, yeah. So I am Sue Eberling. I live in the Denver area, and gosh, as in terms of identity, I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids. Yeah, they're 20, 18, and 12. And that's kind of a wild ride in and of itself. I'm a marketer by trade. And so I'm looking for more or less stable work in marketing, whether that's like freelance or, corporate-y, whatnot. And then I think part of who I am is a relentlessly spiritual person, and I can't seem to get away from it even if I want to. And I have a whole story, and we can like kind of go into that about like, my religion of origin and how I'm not really a part of that anymore. And then, Chelsea and, where we met at a women's community group called Welcome Goddess. But then we've continued on as friends doing like women's groups and women's activities, spirit circles, that I just can't quit it. Like I feel like I there's a need for me to be a spiritual person on some level. And I think I'm rediscovering that and approaching it with a lot of curiosity that I was never allowed to have before. And it's really intertwined with who I am as a woman also. It's really fun for me in this period of my life explore like divine femininity, like the divine feminine, goddess figures, feminine divine figures, instead of the only men patriarchal based figures that I adhered to for still the majority of my life.
I'm really excited to hear more about all of that, hear more about your spiritual journey, your journey as a woman, like throughout your life. I'm excited to dig into all of that. Before we get into that, some couple of things that we like to ask our guests is, do you know your sign in astrology? Do you know your human design, your Enneagram, anything you identify with in terms of personality typing, things like that?
That I can probably go off on this a little. Okay, so my
Love
sign
it.
in a
You're
few
in the right
different ways,
place.
in a few different nerdy ways, perhaps. So, in terms of signs, I am a Pisces sun, a Scorpio moon, which always kind of makes me laugh, and a Virgo ascendant. And that's about the extent of what I know about that. I kind of like it. I kind of like the Scorpio moon aspect because I think on the outside, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I love people, love people. But then there's like a, you cross the boundary. Uh,
Here comes my spike.
I
Whoopah.
mean, everybody has that, right? Everybody has a different side, but I don't know what that all means to me yet. We can go more into this, but I wasn't allowed to be interested in any of that. And so a lot of that's new to me, as far as like taking any of it like into consideration at all. So in terms of human design, I think I'm a projector. That's what the tests tell me. And I also don't know too much about that. But I know a little bit more about, on the nerdy business corporate side, like I think the Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP, which means I'm like extroverted, feeling, perceiving, right, and extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving.
I could see
And
that for you.
that all
Yeah.
tracks. That all tracks pretty hard. And then in the Enneagram, which is interesting. I did learn that in church. I learned it before church in like a Christian like little group that I was a part of, and then it became mainstream church. But I'm an Enneagram 7,
Oh,
and
nice.
so just wildly extroverted, like really enjoys people. Loves just doing stuff. I used to have a motto as a teenager that I've tried to re-adopt as an adult. It was like, I'll try anything once, twice if it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an
Um,
Enneagram 7 saying. I love it.
and, yeah, so yeah, that fits. And having that as an adult is a challenge, but it's also fun. Sometimes it helps me get back into fun mode instead of like kind of adult drear mode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I know about myself from those contexts, those tests or those frameworks.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like that helps anybody in the audience who's like really familiar with either human design or Enneagram or Myers-Briggs to be like, oh, okay, I know a
Totally.
little bit more about like the personality that I'm listening to. So that's always kind of fun. I don't know
Yeah.
much about astrology myself either. We're going to have an astrologer on the podcast at some
Mm.
point, and a
Yeah.
human design expert. So we're all
Yeah.
going to get educated together on this
We want to
podcast
learn
of what all
more.
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are big universes.
Yeah, they are. And there's a lot to learn. And I feel like I'm a beginner at everything. And so it's a little hard for me to button on to like what do I need to know or understand, or is it relevant to me? Like I could
Yeah.
take everything on. I think one of the things, just talking about my spiritual journey, like kind of in the middle of it where I am now, is like I'm trying to be a little bit careful about not being a spiritual consumer. And
Hmm.
like that might sound kind of hoity-toity, but what I mean by that is I actually feel like internal breaks sometimes when I'm like, oh, I want to go check this out, or I want to start this practice, and the thing that I've learned, I'm starting to learn the most since I began to journey into new spiritual paths, is like there's an expansion and a contraction. Like there's, when I started hanging out at Welcome Goddess and like met Chelsea and met a bunch of other women, that was an expansion. And then I think I started trying other groups and stuff, and I felt like to a certain point they were good, but then I felt the contraction, like kind of go back to like what's important and what's stable. And I was watching a video of like one of those kin and chick plants on on YouTube. Like it was growing over. the course of time. Like, this is
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
do
yeah.
do with my time, right?
Of the internet.
I was like, oh, that's really cool. But it was like a 1 year, progression of it growing. And it literally did expand and contract, expand and contract. And then it had little
Absolutely.
baby hens and chicks, and they expanded and contracted. And
Wow.
Absolutely.
that hit me. And that's like, that's some of what I've learned from like oracle cards, different oracle cards, and different authors. And, it's just like the process of like giving birth, you expand and contract. And um, yeah, I piece a lot of this together and create little analogies to myself to help me get through life. And that's probably a pretty good example of that.
Yeah,
That
it
feels
is so
helpful.
true.
It
And then
feels
when the
helpful.
contraction comes, to be like, this is normal, you know? Like similarly, I'll go through a season of intense growth, creating an offering or whatever, and then I'm like, I want to crawl into a cave. I don't want to do anything. I don't
Hmm.
want to talk to anybody. I don't want to create anything. And then, if you know the way of growth, that's the contraction to integrate, then like just
Mm.
allow that. The more I fight it, the more that I prolong it, I found.
That's such a great word, is to integrate the
Hmm.
concepts, integrate the thoughts or the practices or the spiritual meaning. Or
And
yeah,
do
that's
so without
that's a good word.
judgment, you know? Because I feel like I resonate with that on like a monthly cycle. There's just several days within every month where I'm not producing. I'm not really even participating a lot. And there's been so much judgment of self with that. And then it's like, actually, this is just my healthy rhythm. So if I can get into it, then I can ebb and flow with it in that expansion contraction way that allows me to just give fully what I'm meant to give and not get stuck and not self judge. And so I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And aren't we like cyclical as women in general?
As
Yes, we're
humans.
lunar.
Yeah,
As
Mm-hmm.
humans.
absolutely. For sure as women. But yes, absolutely. Very much.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited to hear more about the whole story. If
Me
you want to dive
too.
into it,
Me too.
we've mentioned a little bit of, your earlier beginnings in more of a
Mm-hmm.
patriarchal sort of upbringing. A lot of us come from that. A lot of listeners come from that. We all are coming from that and figuring out our way forward as women in a free world, which is new in the last 100 years. And um, just reclaiming things. So I'd love to hear from however far back you want to go. You can go into your lineage, you can go into where your family's from, or you can start with your life, just wherever feels pertinent to share. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. Um, I've always thought it was interesting because even within Christianity, in some churches, they talked about, well, who were your grandparents? Who are they? Like, that affects you. Um, you know, I'm not super connected on a spiritual level to this yet, but my grandfather was a Methodist minister. And and then I'm not so sure on my mother's side of the family. They were Southern, they were like from Kentucky and very kind of, Baptisty and or Baptist. Sorry.
No,
Baptisty.
Baptisty
Baptisty.
works.
I can make
Yeah.
anything into an adjective. But
It's a skill.
yeah, it's a skill. It's a skill set. Um, but I have my dad said he knew my mom was pregnant with me before my mom did. And he has also, as he's aged, called and he's an agnostic and an atheist, but he's like called some of his brothers and sisters like the day before they passed away. Like
Wow.
just I or even like a couple of hours. Like that happened with three of his different siblings. Like there was a last connection. Um and he's an interesting fellow. Um it's made me think, even in my pre-Christian days, like I think the old timey ways, like, does he have a bit of the shine? Like, is he? he a little bit like tuned into something, and maybe not. But he, despite coming from a, a a minister's family, he chose not to follow Christianity. But my mom was very Baptist, and I went to church with her. And when I was like 13, I really like embraced that as my own. Like I chose to become a Christian. And the thing that really is interesting to me as I reflect on it, it is I chose Christianity, and my entire life changed. I would say spiritually, some things probably did change for the better. But I went from being a 12-year-old girl who cried at Clinton's inauguration on the TV. I mean, and that in itself is a little strange. But I was like, oh, it's so beautiful, and Fleetwood Mac and whatever.
Yes.
And like, don't stop thinking about tomorrow, to being a absolute Republican. And I don't mean to get like too, I don't want to be like, get too down into that, but it changed like that because culturally that's who you were as a Christian. And
Right. Right.
I've always thought it was funny, as I'm in the place that I'm at now. um I know that there's people who'll be like, well, it's a slippery slope. Like, don't look into this. Don't look into tarot. Don't look into other religions. Don't look. It's a slippery slope. And I thought to myself, I slippery sloped right into Christianity.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
can't I slippery slope right out? Because I
Hell
mean, like,
yeah.
everything
Yes.
changed. Everything changed. And I will say, you know, I had someone else who used to be in the Christian life say Christianity does community really well. It is black and white, all or nothing. And when you're not in there, you're not in there. But when you're in there, you can be very, very in there. And at
Mhm.
that point in my life, I really needed like a support system.
Yeah.
And so I actually am grateful for that. Um I and I really did have interesting spiritual experiences and a spiritual life. Uh and I haven't reconciled like all of that yet. But I was a Christian for like 25 years.
Wow.
Um, since I was 13 up until a couple of years ago. I would say stuff started to unravel for me around, I'm gonna get political. We can
You
cut it out if
can.
you need to.
Fuck it.
Full
Oh,
this is the world we live in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these
I mean,
conversations need to happen, so feel free.
Absolutely.
yeah. So I mean, I'm a Christian, I'm like 35 or so, roughly, and grown up in this culture that's like, you don't have sex before you're married. You don't look at anyone lustfully. You don't like do all this. Family matters. The nuclear family matters. And then, roll around to 2015, and like Donald Trump is part of like this like 10 candidate primary for president. And I was like, oh, what a joke. No one's going to vote for him. Literally, I was like, there's
Been
no
there.
way a
Right.
serial, you know, everything that he is. Like, he'd been married 3 times and mistresses. And, he had, even growing up, he had the, um, he had the reputation of being like a sleazy businessman.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way the Republican Christians are going to go for this guy. What a clown. And, then he ended up winning the primary. And I literally was like, what is going on here? These are
Wow.
people posting on Facebook who made me sign purity contracts.
Right.
Wow.
Like
Of
Wow.
course.
we're
Wow.
we're like, this is a man of God, and he's like leading God, saying it created such a crack of dissonance for
Mhm.
me that it was a significant crack in like this eggshell of my faith. And then I ended up working at a refugee assistance organization, which was beautiful and life changing all on its own, seeing different religions, being friends
Mm.
with people of different colors and backgrounds. of all different kinds, and seeing the struggle. That was like another little crack. And in the midst of that, that place receiving a few bomb threats, like while we were there because of the work we did.
Wow.
That was right when I started. Um, and just like this, like knowing that it was good work that we were doing, and yet it was being hindered and it was being fought against by, you know, the bomb threat is its own thing, but like the what was being said in like the news and in Christian circles is like how terrible immigration was and how bad immigrants were and how they're just not part of us and they're not our religion. And um again, more dissonance.
Part of us who are all immigrants, but
Right.
they're not a
Yeah.
part of us, right? We're
This
good.
this is
They're not good.
this yeah, this isn't Native American. Like,
Right.
no. This
100 fucking
this is
percent, right?
this is
Yeah.
Right.
Scottish
How
or
did we
Norwegian
all
or
get
something.
here?
Yeah.
I can't with that.
Yeah.
Dissonance for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, going back, like my grandmother was full blood Norwegian.
Wow.
She was born here just 2 years after her parents came from Norway.
Wow.
So, like, for me, that's pretty close. I was like in the early 1900s on my dad's mom. So, um, and I think, then fast forward a little bit, I'm part of a church community that I really enjoyed a lot. I've actually thought it was pretty special. And then I think some of the shine started to wear off in the form of just seeing leaders really badly,
Mm-hmm.
and being told that I just sort of have to trust. I just
The
have to
men that
trust.
God has put in charge.
Yeah, actually, one of them was a woman, but she
Mm,
was like backed up by a man. Um, yeah, I'm gonna run this a little carefully, but
sure.
you know, like I disagreed with some of her behavior, and you know, talked to her directly about it, and knew just because of the power structure that she was within, nothing was going to happen. And then the pandemic hit. So I think there was like some stuff
Mm,
like that. Like it's already started of thinking of taking, what we call in church circles, like a sabbatical. Not that I was like a lay leader. And at one point I had signed up to be a pastoral intern. I had been a pastoral intern for about 6 or 8 months. I mean, I was in it.
yeah.
That's why I wonder if like some desire for the spiritual is like maybe a little hereditary. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, because like now my son is a little bit like thinking that way too. But
Interesting.
so it might not be. It might be conditioning. I don't know if it's nature or nurture. But
Both.
yeah, so both. So, the pandemic hit. I was thinking about taking a sabbatical or just a break from church. And the thing was, to take a break from church, you start getting looked at like, why are you taking a break from church? Are you backsliding? Are you okay? I just want to check on you. How can I pray for you? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff starts. And then the pandemic happened and it did it for me.
Heck yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, I don't
Yes.
even have to be like, oh, COVID. Like, I actually was pretty freaked out about the virus COVID, and we were pretty careful. But I was
Mm.
like, oh, no, no. And so it's funny. That was a significant thing. I hear from a lot of other people that was when they took a step back from church and be like, why am I doing this? I was already doing that. So I was very grateful for a chance to take a break and look at it. When I got vaccinated and my family was vaccinated and things started to open up and people were going back to church, I had sort of decided that I would give church 6 months in person and then make some kind of call. Um, come hell or high water, just make some kind of call. And the problem was at that almost exact moment, something else happened with the church that involved a good friend and her family, and the church treated her horrendously.
Mm.
Victim blamed, victim shamed, didn't take any responsibility for their poor actions. A couple of times, confronted different levels of leadership about the situation and was more or less received condescending, insulting answers
Mm.
about, like, who do you think you are,
Wow.
in this situation? That's a quote. Who
Wow.
do you think you are in this situation to even ask us and use our time for
Wow.
this? We're good friends with the people who this has affected. Um, and I wish I had tied that up a little bit in a little bit more of a bow, but I didn't. I just left. And I can't say I didn't look back. It took a long time to untie myself from that. And the pain of some of that still hurts, but honestly, I'm so glad.
Mm.
I'm so glad because I think what was happening under the surface, I could point to, well, this is why I'm not interested in church, and this is why, or this is why I'm questioning. But I think there was like an undercurrent of, I'm done with this, like, or I'm getting done with this, and then I'm done with this. And like the external factors really expedited that for me and made it, I wouldn't say made it easier, made it clearer, maybe,
Mhm.
that I needed to be out of church for a long time. And as I get farther away from it, um, that bit of that way to worship for me isn't for me right now. And I took a long time being nothing. Like
Mm.
like it's nothing. It did go from I don't go to church anymore to like what is Christianity to me? And then it was like nothing. And it was like kind of
Oh,
quiet, like nothing for a while. And then I found Welcome Goddess. And then I
wow.
found other women's stuff. And I felt like my heart came alive a little bit and was willing to dabble again.
I
Mm.
love that.
Hi everyone, Abby here. Just want to take a moment to thank you for listening to the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. I hope you are enjoying the discussion, the episode today, and I wanted to let you know other ways that you can engage with the larger Modern Sacred community. So Modern Sacred is a word of mouth spread business and community. We are not on social media. We don't have an Instagram or anything like that. We do have a Substack. So if you want to head over to modernsacred.com, you will see a link to join our newsletter through Substack, where you'll get updates on upcoming events, book clubs, things that Chelsea and I are doing. Another way to engage is we have a monthly free women's circle called Witnessed. This is a space not to get advice or fixing or coaching. Witnessed is a space for women to come together and have that shared energy with each other wherever you're at in your journey. This is a place to see and be seen, to be in the energy of other women, and to also offer your energy in return. That circle is every second Thursday of the month from 11:30 to 1 Mountain Standard Time. We also have quarterly book clubs, which are 6-week group facilitated spaces where we work through some kind of women or defined feminine empowerment book. Our spring 2026 book is Maiden to Mother, which explores the shift into a more mature version of femininity as we embody the mother spirit. So that is upcoming in April. We would love to have you in that space. And we also have a Modern Sacred membership. This is a $30 a month membership that gives you access to an expansive resource library of meditations, courses, PDF downloads. We are adding to it all the time. You'll also get 20% off of any book clubs, special or seasonal events, and upcoming retreats as a member. You can find all the information for our Witnessed Circle, book clubs, upcoming events, and the newsletter on our website, modernsacred.com. Modern Sacred is a multi-generational space, and like I said in the beginning, we are a word-of-mouth spread community. We believe that our attention is best used on each other and not in social media, so we depend on our members and people who listen to this podcast to spread the word on what it is that we're doing. So please subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you listen. That really helps us to reach other women. And share this podcast or our offerings with someone else in your life who you think would benefit from being a part of this community and having more regular connection to other women. We would love to have your community be part of our community, and we thank you so much for helping us to spread this work among the world. All right, get back to the episode, and I hope to see you face to face soon.
I've been thinking a lot of recently, reading a lot of things that other people are putting out about, obviously there's a big difference between religion and spirituality, for a lack of a better word, right? One is a lifestyle and almost a commodity, and the other is really just a way of being and perceiving and engaging, right? It's within, not without. Do you feel like that was part of your journey? Like, I didn't grow up in organized religion, so I don't have that framework that you guys have. So I'm so curious when I get to hear your stories, like growing up in this structure. I mean, first of all, it's, as women, it's just another form of being told who to be and how to act, right? But it's also an us versus them, and it just seems so tainted by the human frailty that we bring to everything that we do for something that is obviously so much bigger and beyond what our little frameworks can actually perceive, I think, a lot of times. And I had a question in there, and I think I kind of lost it, but just like, I'm so curious about that for you all, like coming from that perspective of like, it feels like shedding an identity while also finding yourself. How does that resonate? Like, does that kind of feel like what you were? Because I remember the first time you walked into Welcome Goddess and sat at the end of the table at goddess practices, and it was like your energy, I just felt it was just there. It was just warm and just whole, and you just came in and I didn't know at that point that you were so new to this. You walked in like you just were there. You were just, this is what you do. And now I hear it. You're a relentlessly spiritual person. I wrote that down. That's so fucking cool. Like, I just really love that. So, it was so interesting to me to see you at that, and now know that was where you were at in your journey, where feeling like you just came in whole, like you'd always been there.
Thank you. That's really interesting. I don't think any of us know how we actually show up in a place, but
no, true.
It's true.
I think the funny thing was within Christianity, in the years before I started to get kind of frustrated, I did attend something called spiritual direction school. And this has roots in, like, I wasn't Catholic, but it has deep roots in Catholicism, and like offering people spiritual direction. It's holding a container, holding a space for people. It's been a while since I've gone back to these concepts, but holding a prayerful container with another person for them to talk to themselves and talk to God. And it's very like, one of my favorite quotes from those classes was, what was it? Let the silence do the heavy lifting.
Oh, wow.
And how, like, within a spiritual container, a prayerful spiritual container like that, the silence can like do so much, like unearthing things that people need to talk about. Actually, that year that I was in spiritual direction school was beautiful, and it taught me an experience of the divine that wasn't dependent on external input. It taught me like practices to practice the experience of God in prayer and meditation and Bible reading, or even in poetry reading. I was like, oh, we're gonna connect with Jesus Christ through a poem that's not the Bible. That blew my mind. And we did.
I love that.
Then we did, and this was within the Christian spiritual direction thing,
Right.
and it gave me a taste for a more internal faith, a more internal spirituality, which I am still seeking now. I
Yeah.
just, in that like probably almost 2 years of nothingness, I was like, I'm just human. Maybe I'm matter. Maybe I'm not. I don't care. There was like,
Mm.
I don't care what I am. I'm just not that anymore. And I don't know what I'll be if I'll be anything. But like, I think coming to welcome God is I noticed the same almost spiritual path within me. Like,
Mm.
this is interior. This is something I can sense from within myself
Yeah.
and know the truth of this experience, the spiritual experience. And it can be mine, and it doesn't have to be mediated or talked about or consecrated or given permission
Oh, I
by
love that.
anyone outside of
Mm.
me.
That feels like you just
Mhm.
spoke to what I was trying to formulate into a question. But like really that I think is exactly what I'm questioning, not growing up in that type of space where I was told it was just a part of me. I grew up in a women's circle. I grew up in a circle of witches who were dancing under the moon and celebrating the rites of passage of women, of seasons, of humans, right? I grew up with strong feminine trying to uphold strong masculine in a time where that was really just starting to shift in the culture and on a larger level. So for me, spirituality is internal. Yeah, obviously, I didn't, but like now I feel like I'm almost doing the opposite, where I've been the last several years searching for that external in the form of like the like-mindedness, the community, because I'm looking around this Trump world going, what the fuck is going on here? Like, has everyone lost their ever-loving minds? Like, I don't even know how to talk to my fellow humans anymore, because I don't know, are they rational? Or are they just scared shitless and just reactive? And, that feels dangerous to me. And so like, I've been seeking that, right? Because I feel like it's that interdependent, interwoven, collective consciousness uprising that is going to get us all kind of where we're headed. It's going to get us closer to God. It's going to get us closer to this inherent kind of spirituality that I was raised in. But for me, that's in nature. So like, the more I've gotten into society, the more I'm just like, I don't even know how to navigate this. It's wild out there. And I don't have that dogmatic kind of practice that you all grew up with. Like, I go put my feet in the grass, right? Which now is everyone is like, oh, that's actually really healthy.
I'm like, yeah, I'll go do it. Yeah.
Let's do that, right? But I'm going back to relentlessly spiritual person. I'm so impressed by that. Abby has the same, I'm so impressed by you all, like your clarity around it. Like, I don't have a lot of clarity around it because I feel like I came from that energy of, long persecuted witches, where it was like, we do this in the dark, but during the day, we keep our shit tight. We don't talk about it because it's not safe. That people will judge you. People,
Totally.
So again, I've lost myself. I don't actually have a question and I can't wrap this up, but I find it fascinating that what you're saying, how that has given you this clarity around what this means to you, even if you don't have a thing to call it right now, because you've divorced from this dogma and you're just moving into your own alignment, right? What does that look like? But it's really interesting to me that you came from that structure and what that meant to you and what it doesn't mean to you now. And so anyway,
It's pretty wild to go through. I mean, really, like, I always love hearing your upbringing too, Chelsea, because it's so different from mine. It's so expansive to me. It's just like, that sounds so awesome.
I think I would have liked that, to be real honest.
Okay, except, let me just tell you, when you're 12 years old and you're getting your period for the first time and your mom wants to put you in a white gown and lay you down in the middle of the circle of women so that they can all like paint your body and put water on you and do prayers. And it was like, I mean, cringeworthy doesn't even begin to describe. I was like, I am going to put myself up for adoption is actually what's going to happen right now. Like, I cannot fucking handle it. So, it has its ups and downs, but Please
Well, it's
continue.
hard to be on an island with it, because if that was the norm of if all the girls at school all went through that,
Absolutely,
and their
yes.
moms all did that, and that was the norm of society, then it would have been a very beautiful thing. But it was like so fringe, and it was
You're
like,
totally
like, I
right.
feel so other than all my friends. Like,
It was
yeah, the
totally
lived
outside the norm.
experience of that.
Yeah, for sure. My mom wouldn't even buy me
Yeah.
tampons. She was like, they're
She's
chlorinated.
like, free bleed.
You're not putting chlorine inside your pussy, honey. It's not healthy. You don't want cancer there when you're older. And I was like, like, where am I?
All my friends use tampons.
Katie, what? Right? Like, I don't know how to handle this.
Well, Sue, I really love the analogy you were using in the beginning of the egg and the cracks. And so many things came through to me while you were sharing that, like that initial crack. Because the egg, I mean, I imagine like the white shell and the Christian nationalist white. I grew up very Christian, did YWAM, did all kinds of different super Christian. And I experienced similar cracks around the same time, like with the Trump administration. I actually voted for Trump the first time because I was 19, 20, something in there, and I just voted however my parents voted. And, I was like, he's the nominee, that I don't believe in abortion, and so I must vote this way. And if I don't vote this way, I will be cast out of my group. And it felt like if you're going to be Christian, if you're going to be an egg like us, then you have to believe these certain things. You have to vote this certain way. If you stray at all from that, like, you're cast out. And that would have been intolerable to me because that was my whole community, everything I knew. But I feel like as the Trump administration wore on, and similarly being a nurse, seeing refugees, seeing people from Mexico, seeing people from all over the world, addicts, abused, another crack, like similar cracks. And I think that eventually we get to a choice point where we're like, I'm either going to choose my heart and what I know is right, or I'm going to choose this empty box of religion that feels devoid of like ethics. And it creates a choice point. And I feel like I'm not sure why some of us chose to leave, because it's not easy. It's scary. It's your whole community, but something stirs within you. And when you were sharing that analogy of the egg and these cracks, I suddenly got an image of like, there was a bird in there wanting to break out and fly free. And that bird is God, is spirit, and can't be contained in this small egg. It's like, I'm bigger than this. I'm more beautiful than this. I want to grow. I want to spread my wings. I want to fly. And the egg has to be broken, and then the bird grows and, has its stunts and starts and its expansion and contraction. But there was something alive in there that wanted to break out.
God,
That was gorgeous.
beautiful. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I gotta think about that for a second. um, yeah, I think there was something under it, something in that egg for a long time for me. And mm, it's interesting. Like I, I had, I had the privilege of going to a church that was willing to let people be both, like Democrat and Republican. It was and like to try to hold that. And that's why I say I really did like that community for quite a while. Um, and then it was the other stuff that was like final crack kind of thing. But man, yeah, that Trump becoming the nominee and then president was, I think it's a great question. I think it's a question that should be studied almost. Like, why did some evangelical Christians stay and just keep doing the regular thing? And then why was that earth shattering for them? All I can say is, for me, like, there's men in my life within evangelical Christianity who had gone to things like Promise Keepers. Abby, had
Mhm.
you ever heard of that?
Yeah, that my dad went to that
Yeah.
early when I was little. Yeah, it was like a men's group type movement.
Yeah, they gave out like bumper stickers that said, I love my wife. And I knew
Yes.
people that had like, I love my wife. And then to have the same men in the same circles, in the same churches, go to that and then vote for, you know,
A
a
rapist?
molester,
Uh,
a rapist,
yeah. Yes.
like, you know, and that's the thing with like young men. Sometimes I wonder, I'm going to tangent here. Sometimes with like young men in their like late teens and early 20s right now. Um, I just, we didn't tell them that Donald Trump was like talking about grabbing pussies in
Mm.
2015 because they were 7, 8,
Right.
9. We're going to be
Absolutely.
like most parents, and like maybe there were some that like this is how we do talk to our kids, but even though I loathed him, I wasn't going to tell my young children, hey, here's this man. He wants to grab women by their pussies just because he's rich and famous. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't tell my kids that, but then they grow up and they weren't part of that news cycle. And
Oh, interesting.
it didn't come back around. And yet, I'm friends with several sons in that like age range. And that's the kind of thing I get to thinking about is we didn't warn them because that would have been like handing them a suitcase full of lead that they weren't ready to hold yet.
And I definitely didn't think that they'd have him on the ballot again.
Right, of course. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, he's gone. We voted him out. And then to have him be made president again, I'm like, okay, this is what is happening. And in terms of it being studied, I read something or saw something probably years ago at this point that the Christian psyche, like not even the Christian psyche, the devout religious psyche is trained and conditioned to accept things on blind faith with no real evidence. And when you're raised that, in fact, the more faith you have in something, the better of a person you are, something that can't be proven, like when you have to have faith for something, it makes you a better person, a better Christian. And so then it's just easy to manipulate that psyche. And it makes a human's brain that doesn't want evidence, that doesn't want to look at things, doesn't want to fact check anything, just believes. In fact, the more you have to just believe, the better it is. So it kind of creates this framework that can be very easy for a narcissist to manipulate and to spin and just say. I mean, like Trump will say something that is 100% false and they don't question it. In fact, them being asked to question it and not is like, I have faith in him. And it's this weird kind of place. But yeah, at the same time, like me, my husband, lots of our friends, we left the faith because of Trump. And I know many people who have. So it's this interesting dynamic going on in the world where some people are choosing ethics and morals.
But don't you think that it's beyond just him? That it's actually, I mean, when you guys are talking, I
Yeah,
just
it's
keep
an
thinking,
accumulation.
and I just keep thinking like separation of church and state. That's been going on for decades now, where they just keep trying to merge these two corporations. Basically, it's the corporate government, it's the corporate billionaires, and they're trying to merge these because at the end of the day, this is all become one off the rails capitalist system. So it just continues to behoove. I mean, it always has, right? That structure is built for a reason. Do not question the homogeneity of it. You're talking about these eggs, and all I see is just shelves of white eggs. And the reality is we're seeing that homogeneity actually causes great harm to where we have come from as beings, what we need as beings. Like, we need the diversity to keep the soil good to grow food. Like we can't grow food in certain soil because we have just homogeneously continued to grow the same strain of GMO corn, and now we can't use that soil anymore. Like, these are real world problems that we're seeing from this kind of umbrella structure. So Trump coming in, I think, honestly, even those who held the power in those systems were kind of like, whoa, this is too much. We don't say that shit out loud, dude, because that's how we keep them under control, right? Women like you might not have been pushed to leave the blind faith and to think for yourselves in that spiritual sense, right? To be yourselves, not just think for yourselves. And I think we see this now in feminism, where it's these new waves of feminism, and the reality is, it's unless you're just choosing to be your authentic self, no matter how weird, no matter how outside of that homogeny that has been created, then we're not actually aligning with what feminism really means, right? To just be equal, to just be ourselves. And that goes, I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's not just about women. It's about men. It's about humans. It's about the fact that we're not fitting into this normative system that has been built by a handful of privileged, pretty much white men, but just privileged people of power over time. So I think it's really interesting that, like, for you guys, it was Trump coming in, but that was really a marker of a break in a system that had been being built top heavy for a long time.
Yeah, it made me have to choose. I was like, okay, I feel like I have to make a choice here.
Yeah.
Am I going to choose what I feel like God has put in my heart, and even what I read in the scriptures of, like, love one another, turn the other cheek,
right?
The Good Samaritan, the story of the Good Samaritan, the refugee, the immigrant, like, my heart, my spirituality, and then what's being asked of me, and I couldn't reconcile them. So It sounds like something similar happened with you, Sue, and then having the break of COVID as well for me too, of like, okay, I have some space here I'll have a lot of space here to really think about these things and let them kind of integrate and figure out my next path forward, and similarly found Welcome Goddess.
Wow. Yeah.
Wild.
I think Chelsea, to touch on something that you said about, something you said made me think about just within Christianity, and I think maybe other kind of stringent religions, there isn't thinking for yourself. Abby, you talked about it in terms of, like, the more faith you have, the more you can kind of disconnect your intellect or your critical thinking, the better person you are, right?
Yeah.
Or the more faithful that you are. And I think that's the thing I'm kind of reveling in now, is learning what my intuition is and learning to trust that, because it was actively, like, there's Bible verses, whether they're taken in context or not, like, you can't trust your heart. You
Right. The heart is
lean on
deceitful.
above all things, who can know it? Like, I can this stuff, I've literally memorized these verses, right? And but to come back to, that spiritual direction school was a stepping stone. And they'd probably be like, it wasn't supposed to be a stepping stone for you out of here. I don't know what to say.
Slippery slope the other way.
Slippery
Wrong
slope.
direction.
Everything's a slippery slope. There's no such thing. I'm like, if I can fall that quick into Christianity, I can fall quick out.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I'm enjoying, and that's what oracle cards and tarot are for me. I'm not going to claim any expertise or longevity with these practices, like that, not who I am yet. But I would say, in my personal practice and in, like, sharing, like, at your goddess dinner, Chelsea, like, it's just a really beautiful practice. I feel like, more than anything, it's a mirror into the present.
Oh, yeah.
And it's it's a way to tap into my current intuition. And, like, sometimes, I'll take cards and I'm like, I don't really know what that means, but more often than not, there's something that resonates and that moves me forward a little bit. It gives me a little bit of clarity or understanding or a little bit of hope or a little bit more impetus for action. And gosh, isn't that all we're like kind of asking for, is just like a little more something to breathe some inspiration into
And
ourselves.
reconnect you with your truth and
Mm-hmm.
your own inner guidance. And I'm really interested to hear more about tarot because I don't know, I know nothing
Same.
about it, especially with my, my upbringing as well, similar to yours. Definitely don't know anything about it. I was always
No,
curious about it
so
though.
naughty. It's
Like,
so naughty that I even
so
touch these
naughty,
paws.
right?
So
But
naughty.
I really like the idea of it like connecting you with your intuition. I hadn't really thought about that before. In my mind, growing up, it was like fortune telling was tarot.
Sure, sure. And
Huh.
I've
So I'm
had,
curious to, hear
mhm.
more about tarot, whatever
So
you want to say.
it's not, yeah. So actually, why don't I tell you the story of how I got into oracle cards? Because oracle cards and tarot are both important to me. So, um, man, it was in that fallow, it was at the end of that fallow period, that like nothingness period. My husband, daughter, and I went to a really cute coffee shop in Lyons, Colorado called Moxie. They've since moved locations, but their location that they had this gorgeous goddess like mural in like purples and yellows and blues. It was gorgeous. It was like, it's not shocking that I'm like, oh, I'm into this like divine feminine stuff now. Like we all have
It's
our
beautiful.
tendencies. Yeah. And we were just having coffee there and it was almost Christmas time. And I found a gift. I had found something that I was going to get my sister-in-law. Well, on the table at this coffee shop was this wild, I don't know, wild and
There.
sacred feminine deck. It was a box just like this. And they had the cards out. And I just picked them up, like it's like, oh, like I don't know, it's just a curiosity. I was like, oh, what is this? And I picked two out, and it was like the priestess and Bridget. And goodness gracious, Bridget is like Irish queen, right? And then the priestess, and I think some of that desire to be pastoral or be, I don't know, I'm very careful about this, but I don't exactly want to be a spiritual leader, but I am spiritual. But like to have a priestess heart that like gives to people, like those both, I was like, oh,
You're totally
like,
a priestess, by the way. That's
oh,
completely your
thank you.
energy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You
May I
hold the
use my
space.
powers for good and not for evil.
You,
Um,
I think you already do.
but um, but I was like intrigued. I was like, and so I'm looking around, and I think my husband and daughter left. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy that thing for my sister-in-law. I'm gonna go buy that thing. And I took my big purse in, and I was like, sister-in-law thing, and they had the deck on sale there. And I was like, and I'll take
Nice.
this too. And I like
Yes.
shove it in my bag, keep it secret. And once I was like, once I was, yeah, so I felt so naughty, but I was just drawn and intrigued by it. And I love that deck. And um, I love everything it's taught me about the divine feminine around the world. Um, just, just so much. It's been an education, just in facts and knowledge, but also in like what women can be, because within the religion I grew up in, women can only be a certain amount of things and only rise and grow to a certain amount of power, if it any at all. So yeah, so that's how I got into decks. And I don't know if it's just about the tangibility of something in my hand or the beautiful artwork that so many of them have. Um, I have several oracle decks now. That's still like one of my favorites. And then I like tiptoed my way into tarot. I again, like there's a great bookshop in Boulder called Trident, and they
Oh,
had
love. Yes.
Trident.
Totally.
Trident is so cool.
That's so cool.
Support your local bookstores. Um, yeah, they had the Light Seers Tarot. They had the whole book.
Mm.
Um, and I passed by it probably 6 times, and then in the middle of a snowstorm, I just pulled over in Boulder. It's a long story, and I was just like, I'm buying it. I'm buying it today, and started to learn tarot, and I have a lot to learn, but it is. I find it like, what I'll do either at morning or night. Like I'll shuffle and be like, just give, like at night last night, I was like, just give me one um card for me to sleep on and to wake up with in the morning, and like, because I'm learning, and I've found a few other teachers. I'm trying not to learn from too many different people at once. That's kind of like, Abby, your word integrating is like trying to integrate things
Right.
well and carefully and make sure the ground's still under me
Mm.
while I'm
Mhm.
doing all of this. And yeah, I feel like it's just helped me understand myself, helped me stay grounded in myself.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning. It's something I'm learning. I do something I'm pretty good at in life is having beginner's mind. Is
Mm.
just being willing to be a beginner.
I love that.
It's
I
amazing.
mean, to a certain point, but like, I'm just curious. I mean, maybe it is that Enneagram 7 thing. Try anything once, twice if it's fun. Oracle cards are fun. So I'm at like 7 decks. So
That's
try it
amazing.
7 times. Yeah. So that's kind of my story. It is it's such a naughty thing to touch tarot cards as a Christian. Um,
Mhm.
there are people within my life I keep this from, but I'm talking about it here, so I guess I'm coming out of the shell a little bit
You're
more.
out now, baby.
I'm out
Amazing.
now. But it's for me, it's a spiritual practice, and I I can't live my life worrying about what people from my past think about me.
Mm.
In this
Yeah,
current
it's really
moment, they can't burn us at the stake. So let's
Right
relish in
now.
that.
that's what I was thinking when you were telling that story of being in the bookshop or in the shop in Moxie, I think it was,
Mhm,
and putting the cards deep into your bag and
mhm,
like doing it hidden. How much of that is like the witches, you know,
mhm,
curse or whatever, just like that, our spirituality, our intuition, our feminine flow and power has been so capped and shoved aside and not allowed to bloom. But then there's this something within us that wants to play and learn tarot and these ancient, you know, tools for us to reconnect with ourselves. Like, a lot of the stuff at Welcome Goddess, feminine flow and, the wailing ceremony. I'm like, wow, like
mm,
women have some real tools that we have been denied.
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think there's definitely that. I mean, there's definitely like, we've been denied and had to keep things under wraps. The other aspect of it for me, as I've tried, I've also visited like Druid ceremonies, like a local Druid ceremony. And that's also really interesting and spiritual in its own way. And it's very co-ed too. And it's really interesting to be with like men or people who, it's actually really diverse and open to the LGBTQ community too, which is great. Um, I don't know, it's worshipful, and to be, I think one of the hardest things is to be a spiritual person and not really know how to worship with people anymore, because even a lot
Hmm.
of this is solitary practices. And that's why I did enjoy Welcome Goddess or going to Druid ceremonies. Again, I'm trying everything. I'm putting my fingers in all of the pies.
I
Mm-hmm.
Um,
love it.
and they're like, what does this taste like? What does this taste like? And I think I'm going to be there for a few years, to be really honest. And but with the tarot, the other aspect of things is I wanted Oracle and tarot to be mine without anyone else's input for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That was important to me for a while, because so much of my religious life was given input upon.
Yeah.
Like the way I studied my Bible or the way I prayed or what I did with my time or what I did with my money. Um, I was like, I want something to be mine for a little while, you know.
Love that.
And so it was mine for a little while, and now I'm like more comfortable. And but yeah, as I come out with this, I do get into that place, Abby, of like, oh, I know I'm going to have scrutiny and criticism, and outright horror, shock from like some people,
Yeah.
and I, what am I going to do? Like,
So I'm right there with you. Even, even this podcast coming out or what I'm doing with, a modern sacred that's not known to my extended family, my in-laws, my mother-in-law, very conservative.
Mhm.
They're not going to understand. They're going to think they're probably going to start praying for me.
Welcome
But
it. Welcome
yeah,
it. Thank you for the energy.
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because you guys, I mean, there is a loneliness that I reflect on being outside of the homogeneity, right? There's safety in that. That's how they got people from the beginning. I think at first it was really just about community. And then there's just certain types of people who have existed throughout time who see the potential to exploit, to gain power, to these things that are our weaknesses, that are our vulnerabilities as human beings, and have kind of taken advantage of that. But the people who are in it are just looking for what's basic to us as humans, that community, that likeness, right? And so I think that growing up outside of that, there was certainly a loneliness and an awareness that, like, I mean, I was told that I was prayed for and, or that I was going to hell by the whitest, blondest little Aryan girls at my school. And, and I grew up in private, Waldorf schools. And like, my whole upbringing was non-traditional. And yet even in the non-traditional, because I wasn't Christian, that existed, right? Didn't really bother me much. It wasn't overt, but it was there. And I recognize that is, what we're doing now in this modern era where we can connect with each other, in different parts of the country at different, here in this space, that's not always been available. So that there's a fragility to kind of breaking away. So it makes sense even on an ancestral level that like now we can do it and still like survive. But you did that a few hundred years ago, you might not survive, or you'd be that crazy woman in the woods who like is the witch that everybody throws things at because you couldn't integrate with the pack in that way. So there's something real there that I think deserves to be honored. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that's why we're making modern sacred, because
absolutely.
if anybody listening doesn't know, Welcome Goddess, doesn't have a storefront anymore. I've also moved. I'm in Utah instead of Colorado. So how to find that circle and that community in a way when we don't have a brick and mortar place to meet anymore. Chelsea and I with Modern Sacred, our vision, our dream is to have like book clubs, women's circles, virtual workshops where we can meet even virtually to be with each other and have that space. Because I think it's just so lovely to have community when you're in it, so that we're not all alone in our closets doing tarot, that we can have these conversations. Because similarly, I have my oracle deck was like in my actual closet. I would go into my closet and close the door and do, my oracle readings and stuff like that because of the fear and the shame and just whatever I was having to process. But to have a space where we can not feel so alone in it, that's what Welcome Goddess was. It's what we hope Modern Sacred becomes. Even these conversations where other women can plug in and listen and feel like they're part of the bigger conversation and not so alone.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. That's so great.
And Sue, I would ask, because we're kind of getting to the end here, I know we had talked a little bit. Can you share some tarot with us and our audience? Like, could you do a little something for us?
Yay, I would love that.
Yeah, if it's okay, I might just use my oracle. We'll honor
either way.
My OG.
I love it.
OG oracle.
OG. I know her a little bit better, and this is Modern Sacred, and the feminine. So like to give full credit, it's by Nikki D. Ward and Elizabeth Marglin, illustrated by Jenny Kostecki Shaw. No, I like to give credit where
Cool
credit's due.
names.
Um,
Abso-fucking-lutely.
but yeah, I think they live in Colorado. I've never been able to meet them, but um, I dig them. I'm not a very good shuffler. Everyone should judge me about my shuffling. Um, I have small hands. I don't know what to tell anyone else. So yeah, so what I think I'll do is like maybe I'll just take a second here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 cards. And one will be, for the 3 of us and for anyone listening who wants to receive it. Like the first card is going to be about how the divine feminine is strong in you right now. And then the second card is going to be how the divine feminine, like what can you reach for? Like what can you take a step towards? What is there potential for? You to reach more into this this archetype of divine feminine. And so full disclosure, I might need to get the book out. I don't know these cards that well, and there's little bits of wisdom from it. But yeah, so I'm just going to say like divine spirit and source who holds us in our hardest moments. I ask that you would just be with Abby and Chelsea and I and anyone listening, just offer up this quick drawing of the cards, and reveal to us, what's strong in us right now and in the divine feminine, and what can we also healthfully reach for? How can we reach more of our potential and who we are as women? Let me spread them out here real quick. All right, I'll take this one for the first card, and this one for the second card. And then I tell the rest, thank you for your service, which is a Marie Kondo thing.
I love it.
It's amazing.
When I
Thank
tell
you
you
for
I'm
your
walking this path,
service.
when I tell you I'm walking this path on my own, now you know.
There's always
Okay.
room for some Marie Kondo, okay? I
Always.
Thank you for your service, rest of the cards.
Amazing.
With a book here, just in case. Yeah. All right, so the first card. Oh, that's really interesting. So this is the one where the divine feminine is strong in us. It's the lover, intimacy.
Mm.
I'm trying to make the camera see it well.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, I see it.
Very
See it?
Van
Let me see if
Gogh-y.
I can do it.
Ooh, you made yourself disappear.
Magic.
Magic. It's too magic. Okay. All right. I'll just open to that one real fast. There we go. So what's neat about this book is it's like light and shadow. So the light is love or intimacy. The shadow is inhibition.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just read the first paragraph. We just go with that. It's like, drawing lover is an indication that intimacy is in your cards, but it may upend your preconceived ideas. Although she can indicate perfect union, harmony, and attraction, lover is above all about your relationship to yourself. She invokes the inner marriage, the union of the masculine and the feminine within, and the play of divine eros that sets the world in motion. Rooted in the holy, lover serves as a gateway to wholeness. The ache to be loved accompanies the feeling of separation and longing for reunion with another, with your own completeness, and ultimately with the universe. With its vulnerability, sensuality, and exposure, closeness can also be tied to shame. In this charged crucible, the passions of the soul are formed. Though it may be intimately personal, the love that poets and mystics describe is nothing short of cosmic. It's
That is really
beautiful.
good.
Whoa.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Me too. And shivers. I have shivers. Remind me. Okay, so that one was about the divine feminine in
Like
all of
how
us.
Strong.
how it's
Where
strong
it's
in us right
strong.
now.
Where it's strong. Whoa,
Where you're
okay.
where it's kind of indwelling in you more fully right now.
That lands hard in a good way.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
I want to share my thoughts, but I also want to let the audience have their thoughts and get both cards before I share anything.
I know.
Okay.
All right.
So this is where we can reach towards step into divine feminine more fully. Ooh, this is a good one. I pull this card a lot. Hold on. I'm so sorry. It's desert solitude.
And what we can
Maybe
do too is we can take photos of these and put them in the notes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a thing people do with podcasts?
yeah.
The show notes?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There we go. There, it likes it there.
Wow.
Solitude.
That's gorgeous.
Gorgeous desert.
Seriously. I'll be
All
alone
right.
there for a little while.
I just took myself on a suitcation for 4 nights.
I'm obsessed with
all by
staycation.
myself.
Please, I cannot with you. You're so fucking adorable.
I'm just trying to stay sane, y'all.
Love it. Love it.
Desert. Let me get to this. I know a regular card reader would be like, this is what this means, but I'm not a regular card reader.
That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in you.
That's right.
The desert solitude. The shadow is loneliness. Just read the first paragraph. Desert is the herald of spiritual renewal. What appears at first glance to be a barren, isolated landscape is in reality an otherworldly oasis that slowly reveals its splendors in the refuge of solitude. Desert beckons you out of the well-worn comforts of materialism and distraction. Stripped bare, you enter a space of emptiness, stillness, and purity in which you cannot hide. If this prospect strikes terror at your core, trust that solitude transcends loneliness to reveal a precious gift. Do not fear being alone. Only when you learn to accept desert, however stark and remote, can you access a profound relationship with yourself and the world. Let her immaculate silence nourish you. Tune your heart to the eternal and discern what is truly important in your life.
We just visited Zion National Park a couple weeks ago, and it's the desert, the high desert. But the longer we were there, the more we saw. Just like the card says, the more life, the more waterfalls and bushes and little creatures, the more you're in it, the more you see there's so much more there than meets the eye.
That's so cool. There is something really special about the desert. Or those long landscapes.
I feel struck by too, the way these cards are really landing with our broader conversation, but also with the intention with which they were chosen. And, I have to go back to the word homogeneity. There's the homogeneous, there is that which we are told we should do, right? Don't be unique, don't be yourself, fit in with the norm, because that's much easier to control and direct. And this path of landing with your authenticity, really following the true, spiritual isn't even the right word, but that true connection to God that is not dogmatic, that isn't rhetoric, that isn't written by man, it might seem a lonely path at first. It's what we're talking about here. That's why we're looking for each other, because we're
Mhm.
humans and we're pack animals and we don't want to be alone. It's not safe. And it's not, it's scary. Right. And so, but this is, to me, it feels like it's saying that loneliness at first might seem scary, but it isn't. It's actually just this path to the authentic, to
Mm,
that which
yeah.
is all of us, right? It's actually bringing us back to ourselves and each other, not away from. It just feels lonely in the moment because you're walking away from that norm that we're told and conditioned to be the safe place to be, where everybody is. And I think we're finding more and more of us are not staying there anymore. We're walking away to find each other.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel that with the yeah, interesting the two cards because the first is intimacy and the second is isolation,
That is
which
interesting.
feels so on opposite ends. But what I feel for myself and for this work in modern sacred is intimacy in a different way, in a very real way. Intimacy with Chelsea, meeting every week to record our podcast, to figure out the business, um, being in each other's voice memos. And there's been some other women in my life that have just come close that I'm in communication with like every day. First time ever I've had that. And it feels like a really beautiful intimacy. And also what we want for like modern sacred is like women coming together. And then on the more desert side is how much I want to be alone. Like, I don't want to go to parties. I don't want to go to events or things. Like, we just moved to Salt Lake City, and I'm like, I don't want to meet anybody. I don't want to meet any friends because I have my friends. And it's more about, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of beauty happening in this time of stillness, this sabbatical. And sometimes I get this feeling like I should get a job, I have too much time on my hands. I should search for another nursing job. And then there's this like, no, 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 no. Don't
Well,
fill the space. Don't fill the silence. Be in it. Don't run from it. And yeah, just that's what's coming up for me with those two cards.
But it's also, I think it's interesting because the intimacy in the first one, it landed really hard for me. Hard isn't the right word. It landed deeply for me in that connection with self. So much of this, like you're saying, is that, we have to be brave enough to venture inward, to walk that desert path, to find each other and to find ourselves, to find each other. Does that make sense? Like it's that
mhm.
again, it's that connection to something bigger. Religion to me has always felt, religion as a corporation has always felt limiting because it is very much one person's perception, a couple people's perception, turned into this, rule of the land that everybody follows, and it leaves no room for what makes you you and you and me and like that's the richness, right? That's where if you don't have the diversity, you don't have all the food, the rituals, the colors, all of these different ways of perceiving the same world that we're all living in. And so it feels this like really amazing invitation to go inside, learn who you are, and
Uh-huh.
walk that sometimes lonely path to find each other and see, oh, this is who I really am. Let me offer this to you. Oh, that's who you really are. That's fucking
Uh-huh.
amazing. Like let's bring that together. What can we create with that? And it leads us to this feeling of kind of the whole that collective awakening, a collective understanding that we're not just iterations of the exact same thing. We're truly unique beings who have a lot in common, but each and every single one of us is completely unique, coming together to make a whole.
Hmm.
That's like very heady, but that's where I went.
No, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just briefly, I'll just the intimacy one, I actually pulled, I have it here. Like, I think for me, and see, that's the thing, like we can all kind of like take something a little different to it. We
I
can like
love that.
look in the mirror from like a different perspective. It's not my card was the Two of Cups, from my tarot deck. And this card I think can speak a lot to like love and intimacy and romantic relationships. And that
Hmm.
is kind of true for me too. Like I was thinking about it in a lot of contexts, but even in like I was like, I knew this podcast was coming in today. And I also thought of like how we come together, like that beautiful things come out of it, like the rainbows coming out of their fingers. And I
Yes.
think
Wow. It's
that's what the
beautiful.
intimacy, this other intimacy card also speaks about is, when we can come together, whether it's with our partners or with, friendships, and good conversations, like that's still so necessary. And it speaks to, what me and I miss from, a community
Yeah.
of faith that we're no longer a part of. Um, and it takes so much intentional effort, but it's just a reminder, like I'm doing this here, I'm doing it in other ways. I'm like scratching my way through life, and I'm very lucky actually to have a small cadre of good friends who
Yeah.
also like left that church community at nearly the same time.
Mm.
And that's life saving. That's like, we need each other. We are pack animals, and
Absolutely.
I was talking with a couple of, there's a couple of friends. Well, like I have a friend in my life who recently got a concussion, and my sweet daughter a couple years ago got a concussion. And I was telling my daughter, "Oh, my friend got a concussion," and like, "Oh," and we're like, we told her to go, and we were really worried about her. And my daughter's like, "No, you almost need people around you because when you have a concussion, you don't know you need to take care of yourself." She's like, "I was just depressed and couldn't focus or look at my phone." But, you
Yeah.
know, like we literally, for biological safety, for emotional safety, like we forgot how much we need each other, but
Yes.
not in the control mechanism ways that we've controlled each other, through
Interdependence,
religion,
not
inter
codependence.
and
Absolutely.
that that that's the world I want to live in,
Fuck yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, and then desert solitude. I don't know, for being an Enneagram 7 and like trying anything once, twice if I'm fun. I also, maybe it's age. I've got a couple of years on you, Abby, but like you just, there's still like an inner 17-year-old that really wants to party in ways I didn't party because I was a 17-year-old
Yeah, I
Christian.
feel that. Oh yeah,
There's
definitely.
some
There's
of that,
that too.
there's some of that still in me,
I
but
think I did it enough for all three of us. I'll tell you guys the story
yeah,
sometimes.
maybe we're just gonna have to like let that circulate some.
Whew. Yeah.
My inner 17-year-old is like, I want to do stuff. Um, but like solitude, and like it's why I went away for 4 days, 4 nights by myself and looked at it was also a high desert alpine landscape, in southern Colorado, and it was just long vistas and just not a lot. And it was beautiful. And I find that those kinds of things you can come home to yourself. And I think the
Hmm.
neat thing between these two cards and also what the things in this Wild and Sacred Feminine guidebook said is like, you come back to yourself, you're able to come back others into community and to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
all of us together much better.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm a very visual person. God speaks to me, I think, through like visuals, the egg and stuff. And I keep seeing a diamond with all of its different facet cuts. And like that's each person, like when we are embodied in our authentic self and connected to our soul essence, we shine brightly as part of the whole diamond. But the more we try to be like everyone else, it's like taking sandpaper to that diamond and trying to
Right.
smooth it out. And then it would be, not as brilliant and glimmering and showing the whole picture and all the different lights cascading. It's like that's can be what the desert just kind of gets me. Solitude gets me back in touch with my essence outside of others so that I can embody that more.
Absolutely. And contribute more. The more in touch with my authentic self that I am, the more I can offer to the whole. That's been a really, really healing my codependence, and the codependence of my lineage has been so powerful in that understanding. I just didn't understand that before. Like, I really do want to give to others and love on others and nurture others and support others. And for a while I fought this idea of healing codependence because I thought, no, then I can't, that's like just selfishness, right? And I see it so differently now. It's that somewhat lonely journey inward to traverse my desert landscape, my internal, that might be making it too literal, but to kind of walk those maybe potentially somewhat lonely steps at first brings me back to my authentic self, and suddenly my well is full and spilling over and satiating the thirst of everyone around me that I love and want to care for. So it is this like beautiful journey to come back to self, to give more and to give better to our collective. And so that feels really good.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And that's so needed.
Absolutely.
And it's such a lesson for all women who I think are just told to show up no matter what for everyone else, no matter what, without boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a change. I don't know. It's like a changing of the guard. Like what? Some kind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
That was amazing.
That was amazing. I can't believe that an hour and a half has gone by. I feel like we just started.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was actually. Oh.
Like, fuck. I love you guys. God.
I love you guys.
I feel so blessed. I feel.
How lucky are we?
How lucky are we? And like, this is it, right? This is what we're trying to do. It's not right or wrong, whatever anybody is practicing or believing in. It's about this, that we're these three women who are unique and different and yet have so much in common, and we come together, and this is like the richness that makes my life. This is what I'll look back on and be proud of and grateful for. And I think that's just like, it's such an incredible gift, and it's available to all of us to love ourselves and each other in this way. So I'm so grateful to you guys both, to you women both.
I'm so grateful for this. Thanks. I mean, it's such a gift to have like just a deep conversation and to share my heart and to share some of my experiences, just in the hope that they, resonate and help other people consider their path.
Yeah.
Or just, I don't know, not consider or reconsider, but, a little bit of comfort. Like, like a lot of people are going through similar things.
Yeah.
It helps me. So thank you.
It helps me too. Yeah.
I'll think about this for the next several days and integrate so many things into my own journey. It's such a helpful mirror. It's such a helpful guide. It's such a helpful North Star, really, to just know, oh yeah, we're all walking each other home. We all bring these beautiful gifts to the table. So thank you. And thanks for sharing tarot and oracle. It's so cool. Truly. And it's so cool to see something from my childhood reflected back in this modern era as like you're saying, like a tool for spiritual practice, like a tool for being present and connecting. I love it. I'm grateful.
I love it. And I feel like and hope that for anybody out there in the audience who's curious or doesn't know anything about tarot or oracles, that it just gave a great experience of how it can get you in touch with your intuition, like you were saying, Sue. And that's not something I'd really considered before, but that is just so what it does. It's like what's coming up for me. It's not, it's a different type of spirituality of going within.
Yeah.
That is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And-
yeah. For me, in my practice, like that's what it is for me. I realize it might be something different for someone else or someone else who's more experienced, but that's the tool it's been for me. It's like an intuitional guide.
It's amazing. I love that perspective. And I think for practical, we can maybe, we don't know how this works. We're new to this whole podcasting thing, but we can put some photos of those cards maybe in the show notes or whatever the fuck that is. And then we can also credit those decks too, to make sure everybody's getting credit and everybody knows kind of where to find these tools.
We can put maybe we can put a bookshop.org if it's on there.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to end this recording, and love to you both, and love to our audience. And thank you for being here. I'm so grateful that this is our life. We are so lucky. Let's just relish in this. What a Wednesday. We get to be all this. And like I said, at least not now, they can't burn us at the stake. So it's love you guys. See you next time.
Love you.
Listeners.
Love everyone.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. We're so glad you came.
If you'd like to learn more about Modern Sacred, our offerings, book clubs, and women's events, you can go to modernsacred.com or follow us on Substack.
We were so happy you were here with us.
I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.